We're here to talk about the origins of STLHE, Society for Teaching and Learning in Higher Education. I suppose before the originators of the society get so ill and decrepit that they no longer right. Two of the originators were myself, Chris Napper, and Dale Roy. We were there at the very beginnings of STLHE. So Sylvia Risley and the STLHE steering committee had the idea that we should capture some of this in some conversations. And Dale, you were at that first meeting, and you were there in the deliberations which started the society. What's your recollection of that?
Well, I remember not so much a first meeting, but I remember the people from Waterloo, Guelph, Western, and McMaster. The people in the IDO offices sort of collaborated on things. We would, if we had somebody coming in to do a workshop, we would let other people know, and we would do things collaboratively. We did more of that. And I remember us getting together regularly. The time that I remember a society being born was later, when 3M approached you. As I remember it, that group of people were already doing things together. We had even had a conference or two, but we weren't a society. We didn't have a name. We didn't have a...
Well, I just read the first newsletter. We put out a newsletter for the society in 1985.
Okay.
And that newsletter talks about the society beginning in 1984, and it's exactly consistent with what you were saying. We had that small group of people gathered together, and they gathered together because they were universities that were close geographically, so we could all easily drive to each other. Exactly the group you talked about, plus Ron Shees was brought in to help plan, from York University, to help plan the conference that took place at the University of Western Ontario, and that was the conference that was to take place in 1985. And we decided in 1984 then, according to our newsletter, that we would charge an extra $5 and add that to the conference fee, and we would in fact, like Mickey Rooney invented a play, we would invent a society. And we did something really, I thought, was wonderfully clever. We call that the fourth annual conference of the Society for Teaching and Learning in Higher Education. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I also remember the naming of the society, because we started by saying we would be the Ontario Instructional Developers Group or something like that.
Right.
And then we decided that we would be a Canadian society, even though we were just a small group of local Ontario people. And then someone said, why limit it to Canada? You know, we could be global. And so it stopped with just the Society for Teaching and Learning in Higher Education.
Yes, we gave it this rather grandiose title, considering the group that formed it was about 10 strong. And we got instant membership because everybody who registered for that fourth conference, which was really the first, was made an automatic member of this new Society for Teaching and Learning in Higher Education, whether they wanted to be a member or not.
Yeah.
And then we didn't even have a president in those days. I was called a coordinator.
Yeah.
And we did have this small group, and we constituted ourselves a steering committee. And the first thing we really worked on together was that Western Conference, which was still a pretty small conference. It was maybe about 120, 130 people.